Well, we're joined now by CNN's political commentator, Ben Furguson, who thinks Trump's been doing a good job on the crisis, and former Ohio State Senator Capri Cafaro joins us from Washington and says the president just wants attention. Ben Furguson, you and I have talked about Trump for years. A lot of the time I've agreed with him and you. A lot of the time I've disagreed with him. I think in this crisis he's been terrible, and I'll explain why. He's shown a complete inability to pivot to anything like the kind of leadership you need in a crisis, which is calm, authoritative, giving the people honest, accurate information, showing empathy for all those whose lives are being lost. We've seen none of that. Instead, we've just seen rally Trump, the same guy we saw before, picking fights with the media, picking fights with the Democrats, you know, coming out with ludicrous, crazy theories about bleach, which he then claims were a sarcastic joke. We've just seen the tape. Everyone can see he wasn't being sarcastic or joking. So now he's lying about that. All the worst traits of Donald Trump, I would argue, have now come to the fore. And it's really damaging, both to him and to his presidency and to the country.
Many governors would disagree in the U.S. Many governors I've talked to and had on my show have said that he has done everything that he said he was going to do for the states. And he made sure that states did get the ventilators they needed, that they got the medical attention and care they needed, that they got the masks they needed, that they were able to go to 3M and others and make sure there wasn't price gouging. And he also, again, if it's all about Donald Trump, then explain to me why he has pivoted to the governors and allowed them to do what is best for their state.
Well, originally, of course, Ben, but Ben, you haven't really answered my question. And the point is, he originally tried... Well, let me just explain. He originally tried to say it wasn't about the governors, that he had total authority. That was a lie. He doesn't have total authority. The governors have that authority in their states to decide about stuff like lockdowns, and he knew that. So the governors now... He then ceded control to the governors, which they already had. So that was no great magnanimous gesture. And what he can't get away from, Ben, is the fact that the United States currently has 55,000 deaths from coronavirus. It is far and away the highest death toll of anywhere in the world. And I think it's had the same...
Let's put an asterisk by China, because China's lied to us the entire time, the entire world.
I don't disagree that China can't be trusted.
Let's not act like China is not
I'm not defending China. China's figures can't be trusted. I'm just saying of the reported deaths, America is by far the worst. And many people believe, as we do with our government here, that it's because America was simply too slow off the mark. Trump didn't take it serious enough or whatever. But let's cut to Ben. Ben, let's cut to my question. Let's cut to my question, though. It's not about the things that he's done right with ventilators. It's really about his presidency and his leadership and the way he's turned these daily rallies into this self-aggrandizing nonsense, which doesn't help anybody. Even you, who supports him very loyally, even you must be cringing at some of the stuff and must look at the things like the bleach comment as just ridiculously dangerous.
Here's what I know. One, if you looked at what he was talking about in the context of the whole entire conversation, they were talking about new ideas, and there was a report that had come out, which Dr. Birx has also talked about using UV light. He was responding to the question that actually came from the media, the same media that criticized this White House, saying they don't have enough access to the president, now criticize the president for spending too much time talking.
People have taken bleach in America. People have taken bleach in America since his comments, because they believe it will cure their coronavirus. I mean, this is madness.
Again, Piers, if you are an individual that goes out there and drinks bleach after the White House clarified it, after Clorox came out with a note about this,
after the president said that potentially injecting disinfectant might be a way to treat the virus.
Again, let me finish what I was saying. When you talked about the disinfectant, he was referring to the disinfectant of the UV light, which is clearly what Dr. Birx said this morning on TV and beforehand. So, look, we're talking about something that happened on Thursday. If the media is really concerned about the safety of people, then why are you continuing a dialogue that's already been cleared up by Dr. Birx from Thursday, if that isn't about grandstanding?
But Ben, one of the problems
from Thursday.
But Ben, why can't you just admit that he should never have said it?
What I will say is this, Piers. I think if you have a press conference, the way the president has done it, and you've allowed for unlimited questions from the press, that is better than going out there and giving 15 minutes and walking off stage and having everybody...
It's not if you encourage people to drink bleach.
There's not good enough information.
It's not if you turn it into you pretending to be a medical expert.
Piers,
Doesn't
he did
work.
not encourage anybody. It is completely untrue.
Absolutely.
To say the
No,
President of the
sorry,
United States of America encourage people to go drink bleach. That is a lie. Piers.
Ben,
You know
he
that.
never had been talking about even the concept of drinking or injecting or ingesting bleach.
Capri
Let's go
Cafaro.
to Capri Cafaro.
From the press.
Ben,
Was he asked a
time
question
out.
from the press and respond?
Let Capri Cafaro respond. Capri, you've heard this debate. I mean, you know, I just feel like it's defending the indefensible at this stage. When the President of the United States floats a theory about ingesting or taking down bleach, and then Americans go out and they start doing it, it is incredibly dangerous.
Well, let me just say a few things. I may be a Democrat, but I'm an American first. I do not want this president to fail because I don't want our nation to fail. But what we are seeing right now is someone who has, as you said, Piers, lacking empathy, someone who is incapable of getting past fighting with the press at a time where we are in a global pandemic and Americans are dying. And instead of focusing on those issues in these press conferences, being distracted by fighting with the press. Now, back to this issue of the bleach comment, either it was sarcastic or it wasn't. If it was, there is no time or place for sarcasm in a global pandemic where millions of people are out of work and thousands of people are dying. And to my colleague from CNN, who has basically asserted that this is about a UV light study, I would say this: either it's sarcastic or it's about a UV study. People have listened to what President Trump has said. People have gone to the hospital, and it has forced publicly traded companies to make legal statements of clarification because of this concern. Words matter from the President of the United States. And unfortunately, while yes, maybe some governors are pleased, and I would say again, as someone who has been was a lawmaker for 10 years at the state level, I have a great deal of reverence for states' rights that are, very much enumerated in our Constitution in the 10th Amendment. But we've also lacked a cohesive and cogent strategy from the White House, which has caused basically a patchwork of response across the country. Which it is true. We have multiple states doing different laws.
Now, let me respond. You have the White House that came out early on and he shut down travel from China. And then there were Democrats that said this was xenophobic. Then they didn't give credit for him doing the right thing. Then he went out there and he said, I'm going to get the best minds and experts who know something about
Capri,
this.
hang on. Just let Ben Furguson finish and then we can hear your point. Just can't hear both of you at the same time. Ben, can carry on.
So then you had the president who picked the best minds that he could get and said, I'm going to give you access every single day to them. Ask any questions you want to, and we will do this for as long as you want to make sure that the press didn't say they weren't getting enough information. You had a president that talked with plenty of time with governors. And then you had a president that said the American people need to get funding and money for small businesses, which the Democrats held up on purpose, not once now, but 2 different times, holding Americans hostage, putting things in there that had nothing to do with coronavirus, like the Kennedy Center, for God's sakes. So when you look at what the president has done,
but there is a question about his general handling, Ben Furguson, and I know you would defend him on that. But I think as we know that the UK Prime Minister has spoken to the President. They, said they would have a coordinated approach. But when you hear, Capri, the President saying something like this about UV and bleach and then saying it was sarcasm, that he was pranking reporters in some way, and now he's not going to do any briefings anymore, it doesn't look like world leadership. And we've got a Republican governor of Maryland saying his offices have received hundreds of calls from locals asking about the effectiveness of ingesting disinfectants to treat corona. I mean, it's a dereliction of duty, isn't it?
Well, I don't know if I would necessarily go that far, but I would say that it is certainly not a portrait of leadership. Again, words matter when you're president of the United States. And just to go back to, again, my colleague's comments about the president and the Democrats, I think that the Democrats were wrong to hold up a second round of funding for small businesses in particular. But the president explicitly said in one of these briefings that he supported the Kennedy Center funding. Now, this is all inside baseball. I think that it's great that there, is unfettered access to the president of the United States and his team during these briefings. But I think he's squandering the opportunity to actually address questions that are applicable to this conversation. Instead, we're hearing
Ben,
about...
Ben, let me bring Ben back just finally. But my thing really about this, Ben, is there's an election in November. it's interesting to me. I think partisan politics just disappears in crises like this, and it really comes down to leadership. And the world leaders who've seen their approval ratings going up, and Donald Trump's have been falling in the last week or so. The ones who've been going up are people like Angela Merkel in Germany, Jacinda Ardern in New Zealand, even Emmanuel Macron in Paris, who was very unpopular, getting more popular, because they've just been resolutely serious and empathetic. And actually, that's all you have to do as a leader. There will be lots of questions about what you did and strategy and so on. But actually, if you can guide your country through the worst crisis since the Second World War in a way that they feel like you're with them and you're serious and you're not playing the usual games, you will get re-elected. So my argument for Trump is he is talking himself out of office.
Look, a lot of people have been saying he's been talking himself out of office for the last 3 years, and they continue to be wrong. What the president did is exactly what the press was demanding. He said, I'm going to have these press conferences. I'm going to let you talk to the experts. You can ask whatever you want to ask. And I will remind you about this comment. It is not like the President of the United States of America walked out on stage and said something that in a statement out of nowhere. He was responding to a question from the press, the same press that's been carrying this on since Thursday. And he looked at his experts and asked the experts a question. And then they said, we got something to go after Donald Trump on, and that's what they did.
Ben, you know the problem with that, what you just said? Is that actually even Donald Trump doesn't agree with you, because he now says he was being sarcastic with a joke aimed directly at the reporters.
All I know is
so you've actually, you've now contradicted, with respect to you, you've just contradicted what Donald Trump now says he was doing. Donald Trump says he wasn't talking to his experts. Let's see what Donald Trump said. Look.
He looks to the right.
No, I was asking a question sarcastically to reporters like you, just to see what would happen. But I was asking a very sarcastic question to the reporters in the room about disinfectant on the inside.
So, Donald Trump's own mouth, he wasn't talking to his experts, as you just claimed. He now says he was being sarcastic with the journalists. Which one is it?
Again, in the press conference, which is what I'm referencing, and the president's clearly fighting back with the press there. You know how Donald Trump fights back. I'm talking about the moment that it happened, and he looked to the right.
No, but
again, if you're answering
even
questions
you,
from the press,
Ben, you're the greatest defender. Even you, I couldn't defend that. I criticised him so harshly. He's unfollowed me on Twitter, right?